Hello and welcome on all. We've got ourselves another comic book movie in the form of Deadpool 2. Now, Deadpool was a really good movie. It was a pretty good movie. It was a really great Deadpool movie. It was a Deadpool movie that we all wanted. It was a small, self contained little adventure, and that's what we wanted out of a Deadpool movie. Deadpool 2 had a lot of shoes to fill up. Deadpool was such a good movie that everyone was basically saying this one was doomed from the start. Again, nothing is as good as the first one. Even though Infinity War is a good movie, it's still not as good as Avengers, the first one. So, how could Deadpool 2 hold up? By going in a new direction than the original and making use of its bigger budget to make itself, while not superior to the first movie, just as good and equally as funny. Now for plot. And going into spoilers in a minute, so if you're just looking for a simple recommendation, this is a recommended movie, go see it. That's all. Now let's get into some spoiler stuff. In 3, 2, 1. The movie kind of starts off with a bit of a joke at the expense of Logan, obviously. And with Deadpool killing himself, or attempting to kill himself. You see, Vanessa, who was Deadpool's love interest and his main reason for going off in the first movie, kind of dies at the beginning of this one. You see, since the first movie, Deadpool or Wade has been going around basically being a hero in his own right, taking out bad guys, organized crime, mafias, yakuza, stuff like that. Just going around being a lethal assassin. Of course, that warrants some tension, and just as soon as he's ready to settle down with Vanessa and have a kid, suddenly one of the targets he missed busts through his door, kills her, and, well, he feels like an absolute wreck. All he wants to do is die, but, healing factor, so he can't. So, unable to die, and unable to figure out what he wants to do in life, Colossus shows up to basically be a friend to Wade, pull him out of his stupor, and tries to make him an X-Men. He does try to do the X-Men thing, and at least a really funny bit involving why only Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead are the only two that ever appear within the mansion. And, well, he tries the hero thing, but it doesn't really work out for him. He still feels the lethal edge to kill people, especially once his first mission is to help an abused kid. And, well, when he tries to help the abused kid by killing his abusers on national television, he gets himself arrested alongside said abused kid, who greatly attaches himself to Wade. And it just so happens that this kid, known as Fire Fist, there's a character from the Marvel Universe, but I'm not exactly sure who. He's a very low-name character. Anyway, it turns out Fire Fist has recently been on the hit list of time traveler Cable, because his future self ends up killing Cable's family. So Cable goes on a revenge trip back in time to go kill him when he's just a kid and doesn't really have that much control over his own powers. Well, now that gets Cable involved with Deadpool, because Deadpool and Fire Fist Russell are now in jail together. Deadpool wants to die and is slowly dying of cancer thanks to the power inhibiting collar around his neck, while Russell is obviously trying to make it big in prison. He's a 12-year-old kid with delusions of grandeur and is trying to live up to them, while also trying to escape his abuse in his own way. This leads to them setting up a plot point for later in the movie, and Cable busting into the prison to try and kill Russell, and he's just a kid, again to prevent his bad future, or, well, the death of his own family. Of course, Deadpool gets involved with trying to beat Cable, mainly just because Cable's kind of an asshole, as well as because Cable steals an item that, well, was his last gift from Vanessa, so he really wants to kill Cable. However, after the incident, Deadpool honestly does want to help protect and defend Russell. He wants to save the kid, and also to realize he has to take out Cable to do it. Which leads to some interesting phenomena. Big fights with Cable, lots of fight scenes, as well as the whole X-Force thing that's been all in the trailers. It's honestly a fun ride, and, well, I did explain the plot. The movie isn't so much about its plot, so much as about setting up things to happen. There's a plot, but it's a pretty simple one when we get down to brass tacks. But it's a lot of setup and payoff with cool fight scenes, funny jokes, and character interactions. Again, Ryan Reynolds is perfect as Wade Wilson in Deadpool. He does a really good job playing the character and all the coarseness and everything else. Speaking of which, the freaking ads they did for Deadpool were great, especially some of the international stuff, like the North Korean bit where Ryan Reynolds went on a singing competition dressed up as a unicorn. Well, not as a unicorn, it was wearing a unicorn mask. And then the whole Manchester United joke thing they did, joke trailer thing they did, that was pretty funny too. Like, basically, Deadpool 2 will be worth going to see, if only because the advertising for it has just been so good. It just helps that the movie itself is also equally as good as its advertising. Which is honestly weird to say. I kind of wish more advertising campaigns were as good as this movie was, instead of, as they always are. Again, Ryan Reynolds is perfect as Deadpool. Cable, I really don't remember actors' names too great, so forgive me, is great. He's the same gruff, gnarled 90s character badass he is in the comics, and that's good. But again, the only thing that the character can really do is interesting, unless it's a complicated time travel plot, is playing off Deadpool, and of course he plays off Deadpool quite well in this movie. Domino, who's new to this, is a fun, interesting character in her own right. She's an assassin with the superpower of being really, really lucky, and it leads to a lot of Final Destination-esque shenanigans whenever her power starts, kicking up, which is honestly fun to watch. So, like dominoes falling over. It honestly leads to a thing where you're like, why didn't they use this character before when they could all do this really cool visual stuff with it? But I'm kind of happy they didn't do anything with her before, because again, all this fun visual stuff is really, really fun. Again, the whole moment where she's chasing a truck is pretty great to see, if only because of, again, dominoes falling in place. That's it for as far as new characters, because the whole X-Force thing that was hyped up in the trailers, again, was nothing more than a giant joke, and it was a beautiful joke. It was a lovely, beautiful joke, but it's again just a simple joke. It's still really hilarious, but it's just a joke. Again, Colossus is great in this movie, better than he was in X3, and I kind of do wish that they had this kind of dynamic in the comics, because it's just such a fun one. It's similar to the dynamic that Deadpool has with Cable, but more personable, if that makes any sense. Negasonic Teenage Warhead returns, and she constantly jibes with Deadpool, which leads to some funny scenarios. She's also joined by her girlfriend Yukiko, and it's a fun bit where she first introduces her, because at least still a joke where Deadpool's like, no, I don't care if you're gay or not, I'm just surprised that someone would date you. And it's kind of funny, especially considering Deadpool's pansexuality and willingness to bang or grope anything. Ultimately, there's a bit of a joke that this is kind of a family movie, and it kinda, sorta is a family movie in its own way, but not really. But still, it's a fun movie, fun, enjoyable. This isn't like a giant Infinity War thing. Like, honestly, the two movies aren't even comparable. Like, this is a smaller, big thing, while Infinity War is a giant, huge, mega thing. Hell, I like literally think this movie is almost half the runtime of Infinity War, which is almost 3 hours. So, yeah, if you're just looking for a fun, enjoyable experience, then I highly recommend you take a look at Deadpool 2. And if you want giant, big excitement, go look at Infinity War while it's still running, because both movies are good. There's no fighting here. Although I do want a Deadpool meets the Avengers movie. How long until Disney buys Fox again?